As Joakim said, my name is Erik Claesson, and I'm head of supply chain at a company called the Newbody family in Sweden. And I could talk a lot about Newbody family as a company, but unfortunately, I don't have the time for that today. But some of you might have listened to a former colleague of mine a couple of weeks ago, Sajjad, when he was talking about Dojo and how we are working with Dojo to train the trainers or train coaches. And if anyone missed this and want to listen to it, I'm sure that Gemma could give you the link to his presentation afterwards. Because today I'm going to talk about something else, and that's why vision and direction are crucial when implementing Kata. And this is something that we have experienced, and because we tried to implement Kata a couple of years back, and in some ways we failed, you could say, and we didn't really understand at that time why, but I think I have a better clue today, because in some way we failed in the first step of the improvement Kata. And you recognize these steps, and you saw it just from Sabrina's presentation earlier also. But the first step is regarding about understanding the direction, that you need to have a clear, understandable direction where you are headed. And as you know, Kata is a scientific approach to take you from a current state to a future state, where the future state should be beyond what we can know and do today. So it has to be a movement from where you are today. And this is where we failed in some way a couple of years ago. Yes, and to be able for you to follow this story, I should just give you some background regarding Newbody family's lean strategy, you could say. I will not go into this in detail, but it's basically divided into two main areas, where you, at the right-hand side, it's how we work to establish continuous improvement throughout our organization. And some of you might recognize this puzzle with that, where every piece is connected to each other, and every piece is important to be able to have a process that is in some way self-playing and works in the organization every day. Here you find like daily control, plan, KPIs, standard operations procedures, standards, visual monitoring that you see the same things every day, and how you work with continuous improvement. And this works very well in our organization, and we are mainly working with deviation-driven continuous improvement, that we find a deviation in our standards or KPI, and we try to solve it by using root cause analysis with A3 and PDCA. But we are not going to focus on this part today, and Sajjad was talking a little bit about this a couple of weeks ago, but we are going to focus on the thing on the left-hand side, which is the Hoshin, where we try to connect the company's overall targets to each department. And I will go through our previous Hoshin process, which is very similar to our current, but it basically had one major problem, and it was that the directives or direction that came from the board was mainly based on the current state analysis. And I will go through this step by step, so I think you will understand in the end the problem. Because the process starts with that each department at our company, it's performs a SWOT analysis or a current state analysis, where we look at strengths, weaknesses, opportunities, and threats. And this current state analysis or SWOT analysis is compiled and presented to the board with proposed initiatives. And since the board didn't really have a clear vision where the company should be in a couple of years ahead, the directives or direction set by the board was and then which was then communicated and translated to each department, was mainly based on the current state analysis. So the directives that was communicated back to the organization and broken down was mainly based on the current state analysis. And my conclusion of this is that the need for Kata is low when we lack a long-term direction and when the direction is based on what we already can know and do today. So this wasn't a movement from what we are doing today to where we should be in the future. It was very much within what we can know and do today, because it was based on the current state analysis. So a new Hoshin process, which, as I said, is very much looks very much like our previous process, but at the new Hoshin process, the directive is based on a long-term vision, what we call True North. So the organization is still doing a SWOT analysis that is compiled by the management team and presented to the board. So the board used this, but they are also looking at what is happening in our market, what is happening in the world in general, what are the big trends such as sustainability, digitalization, etc. But also, what do the owners want with the company? What do the owners see the company in a couple of years ahead? So what's the vision for the company, the long-term vision? And this is a movement from what we are doing today. So this is a gap, and the conclusion is that when the direction is beyond what we can know and do today, it's no longer possible to use H3 or use with root cause analysis to fill in the gap. Instead, we need to work in another way. So how about some Kata? And that is actually what we are doing right now. We are working with Kata challenges at each department and different functions to take us steps towards the vision that is decided by the board and the owners of the company. And that was actually it. So thank you very much for listening. And if you have any questions, I should try to answer them.